Hi everyone, welcome back to The Lost and Found. This is your host Amanda. Pardon me, I gotta scooch on in. We are fighting daylight right now, so Dirks and I are chilling. We have a drink. We're sitting down. He had water. I have a rum. I have a rum. It's been a really long week. So much going on, and I had that ambition of I'm gonna do more than one episode a week, and she's crazy. Why would she? Why? With a full-time job and a family here and pets and all the other responsibilities, me now trying to get involved in local government and local chamber and young business entrepreneur groups, and they have a local Dancing with the Stars where they actually raise money for school for people with learning disabilities and all kinds of stuff. And my ass said, you know what, we're gonna make multiple episodes a week. Well, you can't have growth if you don't get uncomfortable, right, guys? That's right. The first part of your growth journey, the first part of your change journey is admitting that you're uncomfortable and things feel weird and it's wrong and it's off and it's odd and it's time to make a change. Well, I didn't necessarily feel wrong or off or odd to decide that I needed to challenge myself here in June, but I guess I just wanted to see what it would be like. And like our Monday mantra, this is the week or this is the day or this is the time where I'm going to stop breaking promises to myself. And so one of the promises I made to myself for this month was to make multiple episodes. So here we are. Post happy hour, post work, still have more work to do. So tonight's episode, I'm going to do my absolute best to not talk for an hour. But you kind of need to know how that goes. Like I start on a topic and then I don't think I actually have a whole lot to say. And then I end up having a whole hour of stuff to say. And this has been so weird for me to do this podcast because truly, growing up, I never personally identified as a talker, right? Like, I think maybe once or twice I probably got in trouble, maybe a handful of times at most, got in trouble for talking too much in class, or like, Amanda's so smart and she's so creative, but she's a little distracting to the other students. Like, I don't know how many times I actually got that comment. I think my brother got that more so, but mostly because he was telling jokes all the time. Telling jokes in class, being funny, right? And so he would get in trouble for talking too much, but I don't really remember getting in trouble for talking too much. I do remember for getting in trouble for punching Parker in the face in 4th grade, but that's because he called me a girl and told me I wasn't allowed to play basketball on the court because girls aren't good at basketball. And I didn't like that, so I jumped on his back. He fell to the ground and I hit him in the face. And that is the first and last time I ever got in a physical fight. He did not expect that at all. Whew. Welcome to the First Friday Feels episode with Amanda Powers. We're on one, aren't we, tonight, Dirks? Well, the point of me coming on tonight, I did say that I owe you guys a bit more of an explanation about what's been going on in my life. We did have the episode where I cleared up, oh yeah, I broke my leg and this is why I was kind of despondent for a while. And by the way, I didn't tell you that I was moving and this is what's been going on. A lot of it was just personal things that have been going on, right? And like I did not want to dedicate, and that's my father. Hold on. All right, we're back. My dad called to find my mother's phone. So if any of you know my mom well, you know that she leaves that thing wherever she puts it down is pretty much exactly where it's going to be the entire time. And she will forget it. I need a real desk. I need a real studio situation, and I'm just not. For anybody that's not watching on YouTube, I'm still in my bedroom in a lounge chair staring at my window for light because I need to upgrade and buy a ring light, and I haven't, and I need to set up a desk with the Lumi Cube lights, and I haven't. Do you ever have something where you know exactly what the steps are, you know exactly what it is that you're supposed to do to make it great, and for whatever reason there's just always an excuse? The timing, the funding, the effort and the dedication that it would take to put it to the level that you want it to be at or the way that you envision it. And I have so much that I want to do with this show. I have so much that I want to say and create and turn it into. And it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming to try and think about. I have a vision of what it looks like, the show and the level that I want, that I believe it deserves to be at. But getting there is so scary and overwhelming, right? Anyway, that's not what we were trying to talk about tonight. Tonight, I wanted to talk about the move and kind of what sparked that and the feelings that I had around it, because I did have one of the days that we were packing for 5 days straight. My mom came in town to help me. We, as I mentioned previously, she and my father came in town for my sister's kids' graduation. My dad left after the graduation. My mom stayed with me to help me pack. And on day 2 of packing, there was a moment where I stood in the middle of what was my living room, and I was just looking at everything that there was left to do and looking at all the piles of things that were in that room. And I cannot remember what my mom said to spark this emotion, but I was looking at everything that was around me. And it's the closest thing, I think, to what a panic attack probably feels like, where your body is starting to get hot in the center and you're looking at things that are all around you and you're just starting to realize the weight of the decision that you've just made, maybe. And I was looking at everything that was around me and I kind of started to realize, holy shit, I am actually starting to become that girl. I'm starting to be her. I've talked about her for over a year and a half now on this podcast, and I've talked about her pain and her sorrow and her hopes and her dreams and what makes her laugh, what makes her cry, what makes her believe in herself again. And today, this day, in the middle of the move, with my whole life being brought out of the corners of every section of my house and being shown to me again, keep, donate, trash. Every decision I make, keep, donate, or trash, is going to lead me closer to her. And I started to get kind of overwhelmed in that moment in time, and my mom looked at me like, oh, like, are you okay? Don't cry. We have so much to do. Like, you don't have time to cry. Like, just reel it in, bring it back up, lift those tears back into your eyeballs. Like, come on. And I just kind of had to explain to her, like, there's so much, it's a really weird construct. There's so much heaviness and there's so much freedom with shedding old parts of yourself. And ooh, okay. Keep it together. Keep it together. Oh man, Amanda. There's so much heaviness and there's so much freedom when you have an epiphany like that, I guess. Half panic attack, half epiphany. Because I kind of started to realize that all of those moments over the last 5-6 years, all of those moments that were chipping away at my old identity, which I misinterpreted as personal attacks, right? Like at me as a person, that I was not fitting in, or I was being negatively impacted because I couldn't perform or I couldn't do what the people around me were expecting of me to do, that I wasn't enough or that I wasn't whatever. And I hated that because I had worked so hard for that dream life, that dream career. And when it wasn't working, you're like, what the fuck, right? Like, I'm good. I know that maybe to other people that might listen to this, they're like, that's a little arrogant. And it's like, no, I know how hard I worked in school. I know exactly all the people I studied under. I know all the internships that I did. I know all of the other analysts and leaders and, thought leaders in those roles that I met either through school or grad school. And I know what I bring to the table. There should be no reason why somebody else should be telling me that what I'm bringing to the table is not enough. But those 5-6 years, chip after chip after chip after chip, were happening. Either from professional situations or from personal situations or even my own family. And I guess it didn't really fully hit me until that moment when I was standing in the middle of moving in my living room, that I realized, like, every single chunk that people took, every single sliver of the limestone of my old life, my old identity, that old armor I had, it's gone. It's all chipped away. And the only thing that's left now is this raw, unprotected soldier, this raw, unprotected knight that has to decide, keep, donate, trash of her life. And it was just a really, really surreal moment, because as you have to do that, I don't know if anybody else thinks this deeply when they're moving. I'm sure it's an extremely stressful time. Sometimes all you can do is just put shit into boxes and deal with it later. Leslie Powers has a system. So if you don't follow the system, you're going to throw the system off. And if you throw the system off, heaven forbid, you make her work longer than she had pre-planned to work for, you are the asshole. So I was going through the motions with this thing, and it's really started to hit me like how heavy my last 6 years of my life had been, because I was getting chipped away at and shedding and starting over, chipped away at, shedding and starting over. And when I was faced with picking, keep, trash, donate, I had to look at every single piece of my life. The last 34 years of my life. Like I had baby things in my house somehow that I didn't even realize I still had. All of my old journals as a little girl, photos from schools, yearbooks, like God, so much stuff in my house. And as I started to have that little miniature panic attack in front of her, because all of this is happening in real time. Like this interaction with my mom, let me explain, was maybe 5 minutes long, if that. And everything I'm explaining to you now are all the thoughts that ran through my head in those 5 minutes. And when I explained to her that it's overwhelming to see myself shedding so much, and it's heavy and overwhelming, but it's freeing at the same time to realize that all the things that I've been promising myself for the last, year and a half, almost 2 years, it's finally coming to fruition now. Like there's no turning back. You've kept every promise to yourself since October of 2023, other than maybe eating better, but you have kept every single promise in terms of your personal growth. So this is it. You are becoming her. And so I had to go to my room and take a couple of minutes, one to just get my shit back in order, but I wrote down what I was thinking. And if you're an avid listener, you know that I do this a lot, where I pre-write what I'm thinking, because in that exact moment when I'm thinking it, when I don't have time to record immediately, I write it down, because it's almost like something was speaking to me, speaking through me, and I have to write it down or else I'll forget it. And when I come back to those types of episodes, those are usually the most powerful ones. So I'm going to read that through with you again and just kind of explain whatever it is that I was feeling. But like this episode's mostly about the move and trying to explain the whole the redemption feeling, and the leaning in hard to something that you truly believe in, and processing the emotions that come with that, right? Sometimes you're really proud of yourself and you're grateful that you had the wherewithal and the courage to do it. And then other times you're really scared because you decided to do something you've never done before in your entire life. Or you might be mildly resentful, or like I told you so type of feelings that you're trying to reconcile with, that you knew were right all along, but you're begrudgingly accepting the fact that they were right all along, and that it just took you, 15 years to finally say yes to whatever it is that they were suggesting. But it's a lot, and it was hitting me all at once that the decision that I made back in January, that this is what I needed to do, was becoming a reality. And back in January, I had the opinion that I was going to make 2025 the year that changed my life, the year that I actually level up, the year that I actually really take myself and what I'm thinking about seriously. And the only way to do that was to truly follow through on my financial plans and my family plans. That meant moving home. It meant moving closer and sacrificing a social life for a little bit to take care of myself, to take care of my finances, to take care of what I want to do for my future. And it's just really, really hard on a single income when you're living in a big city and trying to afford all these things. And you're supposed to live a life and have experiences, be with your friends, go out, but also pay off all your debts and magically somehow get paid more and keep up with the economy and keep up with inflation and keep up with what it costs to live in these big cities, to do all these fun, crazy, awesome things. And I didn't feel like I had it together. I didn't. So I needed to come home. I needed to reset. I needed to get myself back into a better place. Being closer to family was going to make it easier, because I knew it would help my mom out. I knew it would help my dad out. I knew it would help my grandparents, and eventually my brother and my sister-in-law with their, kid on the way. I'm sure will be multiples. So it's a lot. There was a lot that went into this, but I wanted to read you what I wrote down when I was having that panic attack, because I think it would just explain me more. And I'm hoping that anybody else that might be in the middle of a move right now, and you're staring at all the boxes and you're staring at all this junk on your floor, and you're trying to decide, what do I keep, what do I toss, what do I donate? and you're reconciling with all of these memories that keep showing up. Like, I was finding stuff from grade school, from teachers that wrote notes or kind things, or notes that people passed to me, or gifts and letters and things from partners, and things that I collected when I was a little kid, when I used to think I was going to get married or when I was going to have kids of my own. And that's not the thing you want to face when you're trying to move. Like, oh yeah, that other thing, that other existential crisis that everybody else is dealing with too. I don't have time for that. But anyway, I wanted to read this to you because that was what was going on with me that day. And I had a lot of people DM me and ask me, well, why are you moving? Where are you going? What are you doing? And I knew I needed to make an episode about this, but I'll read the journal entry, and I think that'll give clarity to anybody that's been sending me messages and DMs about it over and over again, because this is just another episode to explain that, like, nothing about your growth process is linear, and absolutely nothing about your growth process is going to advance if you don't reconcile with your past and you don't examine where you came from and you understand how you became the person that you are today, in order to become the person that you want to be tomorrow, the person you want to be in 5 years, 10 years, whatever this dream person does in your dream life. So I think there's a whole lot you can learn from your old self to inform your future self, but you have to be kind to your present self while they're doing all that work, because that is a lot of work to be the mediator between your old self and your future self. And on this day, present Amanda had had enough. She was done. She was really tired of the two of them trying to talk to each other and play telephone through her head. So, here we go. All right. I titled this episode, when I wrote this down, Everything Everywhere All at Once. I don't know if that's a good title or not. I don't think it's going to be a good YouTube thumbnail, but that's what I was feeling when I had that overwhelming sensation. Everything everywhere all at once. All right, here we go. It hit me on Sunday that I'm really doing this. I'm really becoming that girl. Yes, I am moving to help my grandparents. Yes, I am moving to be closer to my family. And yes, I am moving to save money. But more than anything, I am moving to invest in myself. When I really started to think about it, I've been shedding myself over and over again since 2019. Because from 2019 to 2025, I went from living in Washington, D.C. to Philadelphia, leaving the FBI, moving to Nashville, Tennessee, starting a career in marketing, doing a spin-off of podcasting, watching all my friends start to build their own families, get married, have children, or at least a lot of them, not every friend, but a lot of them. And I'm not simultaneously while they're doing that. And now I'm starting to take myself seriously. I'm really leaning into my intuition. I'm learning how to talk to myself better. I'm learning how to deal with negative self-talk. I'm learning about manifesting. I'm learning about activations and curating the life that I want, that I can envision for myself. And then I decided to move to Kingsport. But from 2019 to 2025, everything that I just listed, that amount of metamorphosis in just 6 years is heavy. That's such a mental, physical, emotional toll. And I started to think, holy shit, what have I done? But I realized this is what people mean when they talk about becoming. This is what people mean when they say take a leap of faith. This is what they mean when they say you're building from the ground up with nothing but your own blood, sweat, and tears. I started this journey with a completely different identity, and now I'm jumping headfirst into a dream that I used to think was stupid. A dream that was only for famous people or rich people, that only influencers could have. These people with privileged access and media networks and wealthy spouses or investors, people who were allowed to be online. But it turns out that I can be that person too. I am my own investor. And that's terrifying. But since 2023, there's not been one day where I don't think about this. Every corner of my brain is spent on who I want to become and how I can finally embrace her after shutting her out for so long. And this shedding is overwhelming and cathartic. But I hope someday each and every one of the wanderers gets the opportunity to finally feel as free as I do. And that's it, everything everywhere all at once. I moved a lot. For those that may not know, I moved a lot. So my mom and I have done this multiple times because she had to move me to school to Ole Miss initially in 2009. And then I think it was 2011, I moved into a condo off campus. And then I graduated in 2013. Yeah, May of 2013. Moved back to Nashville for a few months and then put all my stuff in storage in Nashville, and I lived out of Baltimore as a base when I was working with FEMA Corps. Moved all over the country with FEMA Corps. Finished that contract in June of 2014. Went back to Nashville, packed up all my stuff in Nashville, moved to DC because I had received a job offer, but it was clearance contingent, and that was the job offer with the FBI for the first time as a contractor. Lived in Virginia initially with a roommate. My roommate was an Ole Miss alumni. She and I were AOPI sisters together. Shout out to Elizabeth for putting up with me and my immature ass for a while. But yeah, moved with Elizabeth. From there into DC for a year, out of DC for a year, to living on my own for only 1 year in Courthouse in Virginia, and then from Courthouse back to Arlington, Virginia, and then out of Arlington back into DC for a few months until I could find a place to live. And then from DC to Alexandria, Virginia, in an area called Potomac Yards, and then from Potomac Yards to Philadelphia. And then finally stayed in Philly for 3 years, so my mom didn't have to move me for a while. And then, surprisingly, could not wait the minimum 5 years to own the home, and left Philly, moved to Nashville for 3 years in Nashville. Came here to Kingsport. So we have moved a bunch of times. I did not count when I listed all that off, but I think my mom counted. She counts each individual separate move. So from storage to next place to storage back to next place. So like over 10 times probably. So you think that I would be used to this process. You would think that I would be used to this because this is her process. This is what we've done every single time. This move it hit different. I don't remember any of the other moves being that big of a deal, right? I moved all the time back then because I was making my very first job in DC, I'm pretty sure was $40,000, maybe $45,000 a year. So right on the border of poverty. And I couldn't afford rent in certain places. And so if you lived in a place where the rent would go up, you would have to move out because you couldn't afford the additional monthly requirements to pay that. So I had to hop around a lot, which wasn't an odd thing, right? I know a lot of people do that in New York sometimes too, but couldn't do it. And so I just took it as a norm. But for whatever reason, this move meant more. This move was a bit more significant, and I think it's because the Philly move might be the closest one where I left Philly to come back to Nashville, mostly because that was super stressful, just because the process of getting out of the bureau and going through all the security debriefs and whatnot took me up until the very last minute, and then even as we were driving away, they called me to tell me that they had done it incorrectly, and then I had to mail some stuff back, and it was a mess, right? But that stress from that move was completely different than the stress from this move. And I think it's because this move, I was doing it for myself. I wasn't really doing it for just general finances, right? Like I was doing it, this one had a heavy decision behind it because there really is no turning back right now, right? I could go back to Nashville, of course, because Nashville, technically it exists, right? Like at factual information, Nashville exists. It's 4.5 hours away. You can drive there, be there. They're having still, the economic boom in terms of real estate. I could move back to Nashville, but the consequences of that, the finding a place that has a yard because of my dog, finding a place I can actually afford on the salary that I have, finding a place in a good neighborhood, all that kind of stuff, that's going to be damn near impossible now. So there is no turning back. Versus in DC, if I moved around and I didn't like Virginia versus Maryland versus DC versus whatever, you could always get around because there was nothing holding me back there. I didn't have any family to worry about. I didn't have a pet. If I had a roommate or didn't have a roommate, didn't really matter. Now it's extremely significant. So it's one of those where I think so many things were just kind of hitting me that this move matters more because you're doing it for real. You're doing it for reasons for yourself, to invest in yourself, to care about yourself, to improve yourself. This isn't just a move for financial ease. This is a move that's financially rerouting, not for ease. Because you're just going to reroute into all the things that you want to invest in. So it's a move for growth this time, and that felt significant. And I don't know if any of you have ever done something like that or you felt that way. And I'm sorry, I know it's loud every time I shift my mic. I can't wait to buy a boom arm or something where I can just hang it and it sits in front of me and I can stop being a fidgety little lady. One day, guys, one day, I promise. I have so many dreams and so many things that I want to do with this, and better equipment and a better setup and a better professional studio setting. It's all part of it. It is. I promise. It'll happen. But that's really all I really wanted to get into today, was just that if you're curious about why I did what I did, why would you leave such a cool place? Like, Nashville's so neat. Like, there's so much going on. There's so much good food. There's so much good music. There's so many cool people. And it's kind of like, yeah, of course there are. There really are. But staying there wasn't progressing me in a way that outweighed valuing my time in other places. Does that make sense? Like, I don't know if a lot of you follow Sahil Bloom. He's an entrepreneur, investor, venture capitalist, financial expert, and he wrote a book about the 5 types of wealth. And he defines each of those 5 things and what they look like in your life and how to evaluate them. And that you can't, and explains essentially that, yes, you can have all 5 versions of wealth throughout your life, but you may not end up having all 5 of them at once. And he kind of explains what those calculations look like. If you have huge wealth of time, but no wealth in your social life or your personal family life, no actual financial wealth, no actual physical wealth, then this is what your life would look like, and why, the pros and cons of each of those scenarios. And like, as you try your best to balance them out, that's how you get to like the perfect dream life, is when they're all equal and you have enough money to do whatever it is that you need to do to survive and live and enjoy yourself, but you're spending all your time with the people you care about, but you're doing a career that brings you joy and happiness and fulfillment, and your health is at its absolute peak. You're diving straight into longevity, all that kind of stuff. The dream life, that's the ultimate, where you can balance them all equally. But the truth is, you can't do that. And at some point, you have to reconcile, where do you want to invest yourself? Which types of wealth are you wanting to invest in? And I had to make a choice, and I chose family wealth. I chose time wealth. I don't know if he talks about mental health wealth, because I actually haven't read the book yet, but I do need to read the book. It's on my list. And he's also on the list as a dream guest. So you heard it here first. We're manifesting Sahil to come on the show. I left Nashville because I chose other types of wealth. I chose to be me somewhere else. I chose to care about me in different ways that I could not care about myself if I had stayed. And I hope that you guys can understand that and appreciate that, and just have sympathy for somebody that's still trying to figure it out and still trying to make the most out of this world and out of this life. And my intuition was telling me, like, you can have everything that you want, but in order to make that life, to build that creation, to get where you want to go, you have to shed more. And maybe that was one of the reasons why I was freaking out that day during the move. It was because my body was watching all of these things be torn up or tossed or shed or put into boxes or whatever. I just was having that visceral reaction of, oh my God, you're shedding even more. You're letting go even more. You've already been chipped away at and torn apart and broken down so many times. Can you really break down again? Can you really shed? How much is there left to give, Amanda? Really? And thank goodness my brain overtook that and overtook my body and told it, like, no, this is becoming. This is what people talk about when they say you are becoming. You're uncomfortable, you're hurting, you're scared, you're freaking out, you don't know what happened to you, you don't know where you're going, you don't know what's going to happen next. But that moment in your life where you're going, this is it. This is what people talk about when they mean, this is this moment where I look back 10, 15, 20 years from now and I go, that moment is the day that my entire life changed. And you go, yeah, you're right. Today is the day where that kind of happens. That's what that's what I was thinking about during the move. That's how I was feeling. That's what was going on. And that's really what I wanted to explain today. And I don't have much daylight left, and I've got to buy a ring light. Mine broke right before the move, for a couple weeks before the move, so I have just been holding my phone up to my face like an idiot. I'll buy all the equipment. I have it. I'm notorious for, I will online shop, but I will just leave the carts open. So like my entire phone, when you go to my Safari and you open it and it goes 75 tabs, I just shop and it sits there for months and months and months, unless it's Honor Active, and then obviously I buy it, but that's because I'm also manifesting a dream line with them someday. I have an entire campaign planned out in my head. Go back into January of 2025 and go back and listen to the episodes with my mom. I explained that because we manifested and made vision boards together, and Honor Active is smack dab in the middle of my vision board, and kind of the athletes are spread out throughout the whole thing. I'm obsessed with that brand. I love it so much. Their mission, their drive, everything that they're creating to dominate the female athleisure fitness industry. I love it. I love it so much. Anyway, I digress. That's really what's been going on with me lately, and that's what I wanted to talk about today, was just that sometimes when you're shedding your old life and you're shedding pieces of yourself and you're letting your identity get chipped away at and chipped away at and chipped away at, what's left? Maybe that's the masterpiece. When you're finally free, and when you're out from being under all that armor or that limestone or that marble that they carved you out of, maybe that's who you were all along. I don't know. But 2 weeks ago, I completely changed my life. 2 weeks ago, I completely changed my life. I either kept, tossed, or donated 30 plus years of my existence to take a step forward into my future. And I will remember that day for the rest of my life. And I know that all of you also have a moment that feels that way. And it's humbling and inspiring and terrifying. And I'm praying to God that Case Kenny is right, that someday you'll look back on that moment and you'll realize it was the best thing you ever did. I hope he's right. I want to believe he's right. He's also an amazing person to listen to and chat with. We chatted with him, I believe it was in early 2024, so go way back, like February, maybe late January of 2024. He's a really good episode. He also has his own podcast called New Mindset Who Dis. I admire him so much, and he's a great author. He's a great speaker, a great moderator. He does a lot of mindfulness and mindset conferences and keynote speaker opportunities and things like that. So he's just really, really cool. So down to earth and so kind. Check out his books. He's got a really cool one out called That's Bold of You. And he has a new one out right now called The Opposite of Settling, which is also a really good one. Definitely go and check that one out. I have it in my cart on on Amazon. Anyway, guys, I love you, mean it. I'm gonna go because now I have to finish this glass of rum and then edit this episode. But have a wonderful evening. I will chat with you soon and can't wait to see you next week. Tune in on Monday for your new weekly mantra, your Monday mantra. For anyone that wants to participate, we are taking questions, we are taking emails, we are taking DMs, we are taking anonymous messages for the Wanderer Wisdom Wednesdays, or What Would a Wanderer Do Wednesday. I don't know what I'm gonna lean. I don't know what I will lean into, but if you want any of your questions answered, you want me to talk to you directly about a problem or about something you've been thinking about, then tune in, write in, let me know what's going on with you in your world. If you need guidance or help interpreting the Wanderer's map, hit me up for Wednesday's episode and I just might read your question on air. So that's all I've got for you for this week and this episode. I hope all of you have the best day ever, best week ever. I don't know when you're listening to this, morning, evening, night. I hope it goes well for you. I hope you're having a great day. And if you're not having a great day, then I hope that this episode at least brought you some comfort and clarity and reassurance that absolutely nobody knows what they're doing. Absolutely nobody has anything figured out. And if they do, I bet you it mostly came from a whole lot of trial and error. Okay? So you're on the right path. You're going in the right direction. The thing is, you just have to keep showing up. Keep showing up, listen to your gut, lean into what it is that you want and you believe in for yourself. And it'll come to fruition. I know it will, because I know it will for me. So it definitely has to for you too. But that's all I've got. Remember, wanderers are always welcome.